Last night I had a very vivid dream. I have a lot to cover regarding Turkey and the dreams regarding Turkey, but this dream I had was a very vivid and telling dream. I dreamt I am in the air flying on an airplane. I am flying over the Middle East. The man next to me in the plane asks me where I am from. I mention South Africa and he tells me he is from Azerbaijan. He then tells me my South African rand has lost value and his currency is now 22 times stronger than the rand. Now there are two calculations that this dream could be speaking of. The one could be that these currencies become worth more than 22 times what they are right now, or that 1 unit of the currency buys 22 rand. 1 Azerbaijan munat, which is the Azerbaijan currency right now, is worth 8.39 rand, meaning 8 multiplied by 22 equals 184.58. In the future 1 unit of the currency will purchase 184. Or it could be that 1 unit of the currency in the future will buy 22 rands. I do not know which value or calculation it is, but the dream showed me the letters 22. In other words, the rand is going to lose most, if not all, of its value. Meaning 1 Azerbaijan munat will buy 184.58 rands, or initially it will buy 22 rands. It's possible it's both. In the coming months, the South African rand is going to lose value. $1 will be worth 2,661 rands by the time the downgrades finish, according to my dream. Initially, based on my calculation, it will be that $1 will be worth 37.33 and then go all the way to 2,661 rands. When I first wrote all this down, I did the simple calculation, but I remember quite clearly that in my dream I saw how distressed I was and how this man looked down on the South African rand. Sir, I believe that the true calculation will be that his currency will buy 22 times the amount that 1 unit of currency buys right now, and not that one of his units of currency will buy 22 rand in the future, when it buys just 8.39 right now. What I felt in this dream is we're the laughingstock of the world. No one will even touch our currency. We will be looked at like Zimbabwe. I do not know why this number 22 is significant. Perhaps this is the first level the rand goes to when the downgrade happens on the first day. That things are so bad with the economy that the rands perhaps drops too. In Azerbaijan munat the value was 22. The conversions into dollars is 37.33. The other striking thing to me in this dream is that I saw how this man turned his nose up, how he shunned me when I said I was from South Africa. All these nations will look down on us. The world will look down on us. And this gets me thinking that right now, looking back, the entire Rainbow Nation was and still is one giant lie. The reason it was created was to get the whites to hand over without a fight. So now the question is, how do you protect yourself for this crash, and how can you profit from the crash? To profit from the crash, when the signal comes, you can short the South African rand against the dollar or the Japanese yen. You can also short the JSE and the various stocks within the JSE. The problem with trading on the JSE is that you are still stuck with rands. You can simply buy dollars or yen right now to short the rand, or if you are a trader or have some grasp of trading, you can go into the market, wait for the signal, and profit from the coming news by selling the rand and buying the dollar or the Japanese yen, or even just buying some other currency out there. To protect yourself from the crash: 1. Get into some precious metals. 2. I would avoid paying or making full payments on any houses, cars or any debt that you have until the downgrade. I would only be paying off a small portion of the debt. Once the downgrade news is out, you can go back to making full payments. Take the remaining money and put it overseas. No one will repossess assets within 3 months so long as you agree to make full payments into the future, which you should, but should this dream come to pass, should the value drop suddenly this low, immediately tens of thousands will lose their jobs, money will flee from the country, the government will not be able to pay the debt, billions will not get the social grants, which will result in a huge spike in crime. Eskom will collapse. If you think blackouts are bad now, wait until they cannot even get Eskom to run for half an hour. Not only will jobs be lost, but South Africa imports all its goods. meaning that the goods brought in from other countries will cost almost 3 times as much. When people have less disposable income, they stop eating out, they cancel insurance and financial policies. They stop investing in the stock market, they do whatever they can to keep food on the table. Many houses will be repossessed, including cars, shopping malls will be empty, huge businesses will go bust, and the ramifications of this are too many to even contemplate. Think how crime will skyrocket, unemployment will go from 48% to 75% or more overnight. If you think the policing is bad now, imagine the police being 3 times as corrupt. The salaries will hardly be able to keep them from buying a month's worth of groceries. As you can see, the dream regarding Turkey invading Libya and putting troops on the ground has happened. I have no doubt that this dream will happen regarding the value of the currency. After the getting off the aeroplane in the dream where I was speaking to this man about the currency, I found myself in London. I am walking in London and I suddenly see thousands, tens of thousands of black Africans coming up and out of the London Underground station. They swarm out in the tens of thousands. While I was watching this, I remember asking myself, my God, where do all these people come from? I didn't even think there were this many Africans in London, but these are South African blacks. I see them rush out of the station and they have a pickaxe with them, and I see them start smashing the roads. I see they dig it up. I see that under the paving and the roads they begin digging up. I see the layers and see how well the road was packed or paved. I see all these layers, different layers. Some of the layers have wood, the way they're laid on top of each other at the top of this tar road being dug up. Then underneath the wood, which looks like thin beams laid over each other like a lattice fence, I see rocks, and then I see gravel underneath, and then I see sand. I see these roads and pavings, they are smashing, are so well packed, so well built and designed. I saw all the interactive layers underneath. They start ripping in one area and move on. They don't dig right to the bottom, they simply rip the top part of the tar road off. They smash through the wooden beams which look like a lattice and simply move on. This will be the race riots, and it will rip off this layer which has been hiding or protecting the British, but it will expose everything underneath it, but that the British despite this will still maintain the traditions. The blacks will rip up the facade, the cosmetic makeup of this non-racial Britain, and show it as a farce, but in so doing the Africans expose the true colours, which is why the British will maintain their customs and cultures after seeing this take place. It is interesting to note that these race riots I saw happen just shortly after our rand devalues. When the rand devalues, I see millions of South African blacks pouring out of the underground train station in London. I was shown in this dream how the black goes to war. I saw his spirit. There is one thing seeing it with your eyes, but another when you see the spirit. I saw the destructive nature was and is there as a form of warfare. They destroy buildings and anything resembling civilization. This is how they war. When other nations go to war, they go in for the kill or to take over. The dream showed me that their war spirit is that of destroying, breaking, and they take their anger, frustration out on inanimate objects like buildings, roads. I saw these race riots, orchestrated by blacks, was due to colonialism. The blacks are at war with Europe over colonialism. This is a war. The whites have stopped thinking it's a war. What the British did to the Africans, even here in South Africa, finds itself now in London, and that the British will not know how to react because they will not see it as an act of war, and due to their own decades of racial brainwashing and adopting a multicultural society. There will be a cognitive dissonance. At this stage the British will begin to fear what has happened to the country. This will wake up the British nation when these race riots have happened, what they have gotten themselves into with this multiculturalism. I saw British women horrified watching this play out on the streets below from colonial-era styled buildings. The men watching this, and no one could believe how destructive these people were. I saw this is war. The war has gone from the colonial past and jumped into the 21st century. Arriving in Britain when most British will have forgotten about colonialism, but the Africans are still fighting their war. The goal is to rip up Europe. To destroy is to pillage and plunder it by physically ripping up and destroying it. The former colonialists miscalculated and did not think the African nations would continue this fight long after the colonialists have forgotten they will be continuing this fight. It is African warfare against the Europeans. When it happens, people will not be able to say anything due to their racial programming, but people will begin to wake up and fight back, and this is when the racial tension will reach its peak. These people will no longer stand by and watch this play out. From here I see things getting very ugly, but I don't know how they will contain it. The only way I can describe the amount of black Africans I saw pouring out of these underground tube stations was that it looked like millions upon millions of ants all coming out. All coming to destroy, break and burn things everywhere in London. There were no whites on the ground. They were too afraid to even go on the street. They watched from their flats and high-rise buildings as these blacks moved on the ground like ants. The thing though that is still strange is they were South African Africans. This is the thing that gets me. They were not from Europe or had not been in Europe. These were fresh arrivals, as if they were spirits that simply appeared out of nowhere. And here I can go off on a tangent, but the Bible makes it very clear when Israel sins out of the blue, out of the mist the heathen shows up. There is more to reality than what we know. The minute they sin, these people show up. It doesn't matter if you are thousands of miles away. Once you hear the word and begin not following, it would be better to not hear the word of the Lord, because once you hear it and reject it, then these things begin to happen. These people will show up as if they came out of the ground out of nowhere once the nation has committed some grievous sin, which they will shortly commit. Perhaps this ties into my earlier dream where I see they remove Christianity from Britain. How they arrived I don't know. I am fully aware of Cena's visions regarding millions going to South Africa, and I don't know, but this does for sure tie in. Here again I am given specifics in the dream 22. The currencies are going to be 22 times their amounts there right now, and we will be looked down upon. Then millions of blacks pour out of the underground into London, rip up the streets and expose Britain. I saw the British were paralyzed and could not do anything even if they tried. There were so many of these hordes of black Africans. In the dream, it is as if someone opened up a gate to Africa and Africans suddenly appeared, like an entire country pouring out. It was like watching ants pour out of their ants' nests in the tens of thousands. I did not see a single white in these riots when they were ripping up the roads. So it could be that millions stream into the UK when the currency collapses, resulting in millions of black Africans from South Africa coming or going to London, and they rip the place apart, expose the British and literally destroy the place. I saw how this one man took his pickaxe, hit the road, made this huge hole in the road and simply moved on to a new location and did the same. I saw this time and time again. All these blacks were doing the same. They were ripping the top part off of these roads. So that is where the dream ends. Things move fast here in South Africa. They move faster in Europe, and as the angel of the Lord told me, a threat from Russia comes to the UK from March or April 2020. That is what was told to me, and that the bondage chains come undone for the nation. You are about to be set loose, and your century of bondage is now undone. Run, my brothers and sisters, run into your freedom and never look back. The last BOLAS is being pulled, and before you know it we will have our own government. Dedicate everything to the Lord. Those who did you wrong, they will be brought here in the end, for the Lord has made it so that the Afrikaner will rule many European nations in the end. And please remember, do not like my videos, do not subscribe to my channel. Pray and pray some more is all I ask for. Pray for the nation. Praise be to Yahweh, the Lord Almighty, the Lord God of Israel and the Afrikaner nation.